Hello, Abigail here with the astrology for this week. This week is action packed to say the least. We are finally in Aries season and it is also eclipse season. We have our final eclipse this week. Mercury and Venus are still retrograde. We have tons of Mercury activation and Venus activation. Just know that this is kind of an uptick in movement and energy. Stuff has been happening, but this might feel a little more progressive. The energy of that Aries eclipse, though, is very intense. I'll be doing a longer video on that, but I will include a few notes, if you will, in this season. We also have my notepad because there's too much happening to remember this week. So we're going to go through it, kind of discuss the energy that's going on. My advice is still like it is for most eclipse seasons, that we need to, ground and listen to our body and kind of let things go where they will because the energy is reworking things beyond our understanding and our control. But it does feel as though there's an uptick in that activity and some stuff is going to be coming to the surface. And we've got a couple things happening that I think are going to give us some illumination, even in the kind of murky waters, especially, as Venus and Mercury both move back into Pisces, we get kind of a little into the deep end again. But starting off on Monday, we kick it off with a beautiful Mercury retrograde Cazimi in Aries. This is a beautiful energy. This is a time for insights and understandings. Also, to me, if you haven't felt like you can take any action or that things just keep getting hopelessly tangled, this could very well be a day where things move forward a little more smoothly, or at least you're kind of aware of the pitfalls that are coming for you because Mercury conjunct the sun gives us this nice fresh visibility. Now, the degrees on either side, we don't really know what's going on because it's, in the rays and, you know, combust the sun. Those are medieval terms, which means that you don't get a whole lot of visibility when it's adjacent. But when it's in the middle, there's this lovely insight and flow of energy and ability to kind of understand more than we could before. So really look forward to that energy and all of this, that those moments of insights, that perspective shift, that bit of understanding. A lot of people tend to feel a turning point in a Mercury retrograde around a Cazimi. So maybe that's you. It really depends on your chart and how it works, though. Um, but it is a great way to kick off the energy of this week, especially considering we're going to need a lot of that energy as we move through what is a lot of astrology to kind of digest and sink into and understand and appreciate. Then on Tuesday, something that I think is going to add some depth to this Cazimi, and is still in action with the Cazimi, it's just not exact, is Mercury sextile Pluto. So that is a sextile is a really lovely, energizing, conversational, at least to me, conversational aspect where there's exchange of ideas, a little push and pull, but it's all very friendly and helpful. And I think it is going to kind of pull a little of the curtain back on some things that have been going on. Secrets will be revealed. Maybe they're still revealed kind of in a more private way, but you get a little more insight into where people are and what they're thinking. Um, if you're aware, you can be intentional about the energy you share, but a lot of people are just going to be willy-nilly giving away the tea. So keep your ears open and ready. Um, it should be fun. So just keep an eye out for that. Also, it could bring up some really deep personal themes because Pluto is not just secrets, it's also stuff that we've kind of buried really deep. So be prepared to feel a little raw and a little activated when it comes to thought patterns and where we're headed. And Pluto does put things in perspective, even if it's a lot. So just be ready for maybe some intense revelations and understandings in a helpful way, but it's still, considering the energy we're in, could really feel like a lot. So, yeah. And don't push yourself. You will, as I smash my finger, you will know what you know when you need to know it in this type of energy. And then we move into Wednesday with Mars square Chiron. And we've had this aspect a couple times already. Mars coming in and creating that tension with Chiron, the asteroid, that involves trauma and wounding and how we want to heal and where we can and cannot heal, and often how our personal wounds that we personally cannot heal can also be activated to help other people find access and things like that. Um, Squares can be rough. However, squares give you traction. So if this is a time where you need to stand up for yourself, or you need to protect yourself a little more, or you need a little more space, make sure you share that. Make sure you're upfront about it, with yourself, even. If things are rough, recognize it. And, we're still moving through the shadow period of the Mars retrograde. So just know that this is a continuation of that journey. This is probably not new information. This is you needing to reestablish and face something. Um, and something that comes up a lot for me with Chiron in my 12th, um, is that, and actually, yeah, it's been adjacent, that fire trine, though we've got distance, is still there. Um, is that not all wounds are healable, and Mars wants to come in and sear and correct and cauterize things. And you might have to pull back a little bit and say, Mars, we need to be a little more Cancerian. We need to be a little more tender, more supportive. It may be a day, it's not a day to confront your wounds and to demand healing. It is a day to come in and say, this is the wound, and I will support it, and I will advocate for it, and I will keep myself safe. Rather than pushing yourself into a position where you might be unsafe in order to advocate for yourself. You know, it's nice to believe that all of us can just say no and can just, stand up for ourselves and there are no consequences, but that's not true. So in this aspect, it's not about coming out guns a-blazing and putting ourselves in a tricky position. It's about understanding what we need and where we need to get going in order to do what needs to be done for now. It's not a permanent fix. It's about care. It's about dealing with and protecting what we have in this moment rather than fixing things. And that square is going to want to fix things, but we can kind of take that energy and instead of forcing ourselves into a position where we, might be struggling and where it might put us a little more at risk, put ourselves in a position where we're protected and cared for what we need in the moment. And maybe there's a time in the near future where we can come out as a warrior and say, no, that's not how this is going to be. But I think for now, it's really about protecting and supporting and nurturing what's going on versus forcing ourselves to heal in a time when we just don't have the energy. Um, yeah, because squares can cause us to kind of react and to be like, I have to do this now, and I want to get out of the discomfort. And unfortunately, in this type of, eclipse portal energy, it's really about doing what you can do in a way that is supportive rather than having really big expectations for yourself. We move into Thursday, and Venus re-enters Pisces. Venus is exalted in Pisces, so it's going to feel better, but also a bit of delulu might be present. Venus is great at delusion and fantasy, and this might be what we need, excuse me, at this time. But just know what the key to playing with delusion and playing with fantasy is knowing what the difference is, being like, I know that I'm being delusional and I need to be because that's what's going to help me do what I need to get done versus being delusional and being like, that's real. Same with fantasy. This could be a really great escape for us. I will say once we get into that conjunction with Saturn, we will have to be brought down to earth pretty fast. So balance it, do what you need to do to cope and to explore and to have fun, but also, know what you're doing. Be aware that you're being a delusional fairy, which is fine. That's great. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying, as we move in, know that the desire to build, castles in the cloud is going to be heightened, and there's nothing wrong with the castle in the cloud. It's just still in the clouds. And because Neptune is right about to enter Aries, it goes straight into that conjunction with Neptune. So we get that beautiful, amplified kind of watery glory that you can get with a beautiful Neptune Venus conjunction in a water sign. Once again, not a day to know what is really happening. This is a day to dream and to hope and to refill your cup with fantasy, with projections into the future, with desires for how you wish things are, and a belief that it can really happen. Will there be a little bit of a reality check when we get that Venus Saturn conjunction? Yes, absolutely. But we need to have these beautiful, flowery, wonderful things that we desire in order to survive the harder, more crushing edges. So enjoy the energy on this day. Let Thursday be floating in the clouds and relaxing and disassociating and using one of your favorite coping mechanisms. There's so much information about how not to cope, how not to use coping mechanisms, and how not to disassociate. And as someone who has survived a lot, that's just not helpful for me. I have to use coping mechanisms to survive what has been done to my body and my brain. So use those things. Just use them consciously. Just use them in measure. Just know that Saturn's going to come in and require something from us soon, but allow this to be an escape. Allow Thursday to be a bit of a vacation from kind of the nitty gritty, especially as we're kind of heading into a really punchy solar eclipse in Aries. This is the time to kind of release and let go and let Neptune and Venus kind of sing us a siren song for a bit. I think it's incredibly helpful to find moments like this. Um, and they may not be as productive per se, but they don't need to be, because that is their beauty, is that they just are. And in a sneaky way, they will have some kind of result. Um, it's just not going to be what we might perceive as constructive. It is going to fill our cups, though. It's going to bring us delight, and it's going to bring us, I think, some really beautiful dreams to hang on to in the next few months. So don't waste it. Don't squander it. Enjoy. Detach. Um, cope. Be a little delusional. Enjoy dreaming and believing in more than what we have in this moment. Then we go into Saturday, and that is that solar eclipse. It is intense and bombastic. Its ruler, Mars, is at the same degree as that non eclipse full moon we had back in Libra season. So there is a story within a story. It's like multi levels of things going on. So pay attention to what the theme from there to now is. Like I said, I'll be doing another video, but Mars is also square Saturn and also in a sextile with Uranus. This is a huge moment of change. It's also a massive amount of energy. Do not pressure yourself to do anything big this week that you don't have to. You might have big things to do just because that's how the energy sets it up, but don't add to anything on top of that, please. This type of energy requires rest and downtime to digest, to understand, to really dig in and integrate the energy and the lessons and the change that is happening. You have to have downtime. So, whatever downtime you can get on Saturday, take it. And if this downtime is in the theme of Aries, like getting out amongst the flowers and the trees and really being able to enjoy stuff, even better. It might also be you staying at home and not going outside based on where your energy is. But, don't feel pressured to accomplish on Saturday. Just be, exist, allow yourself to be, allow yourself to exist. You don't need to be more in this moment. You just need to be, and to be able to be present for what you need to be present for. Period. Full stop. Then on that day, later in the evening, Mercury enters Pisces. And now it's in detriment. So we have Venus in the exaltation, Mercury detriment, conjunct Neptune, because Neptune is just about to go into Aries. And so this is a really sweet goodbye for now, because Neptune will be back into Pisces. But, excuse me, it's a really sweet moment of connection and integration and kind of playing off of what we had with Venus, now taking those dreams and putting them into creativity and art and, transmuting them in a really innate, intuitive way into something that is wordless, into something that communicates beyond pen and paper, communicates beyond what I can say to you. That is the beauty of Pisces in detriment, is that ability to just effortlessly be artistic and to kind of show things without words and without direct communication. And the kind of detriment part is the part where everyone can make an interpretation of a piece of art. But the part that I find special is that also everyone can communicate and relate to a Pisces detriment moment. Um, and then going into Neptune, we kind of get to exist in this space of expansion and of the unknown. And for some of us, it's going to be deeply uncomfortable. But for those of us who have been able to release and who kind of know what's going on in this moment, it's a beautiful time of releasing control, of releasing the need to understand, of knowing that even if you can't see or put words to it or hold on to it or explain it, there are some truths that are just truths, and you don't have to do anything for them to be true. You know, human rights are human rights, and you don't have to be good at arguing it for it to be true. You know, you deserve a voice in the world, and you don't need to argue that for it to be true. Um, you don't have to be good at communication to deserve to be heard. Um, and Neptune is such a deep well of messages and understandings and dreams and cycles. Also, your dreams are probably going to pop off on that day. So just be ready for that. I did not expect when the nodes went into Pisces that my dreams were going to be quite so visceral. I had a crazy dream last night. And like, I dream sometimes and they're never like prophetic. I won't say never. They're often not prophetic. Um, Usually just my brain trying to process existence. Last night I had like parasites growing out of my face and I was like popping them off and being like, is this normal? And like, oh, did people see that? Versus freaking out that that was happening. So be prepared for the dreams to be wild as I rabbit trail off into my own wild dream life. Um, be prepared for the energy to be really intense though this time, especially because Neptune is at the anaretic degree of the anaretic degree. It's like right about to move into Aries. So there is also an urgency around us understanding kind of the indescribable things that are happening to us right now. And that understanding will happen over time. But make notes, pay attention, listen to the universe. This week is really about listening. It's really about, you know, you can still disassociate and pay attention. I'll just say that. You can still take notes and be like, also, I'm in Delulu land. Um, so let yourself be what you need to be this week. And then on Sunday, Neptune enters Aries. This is about change and the transformation of things. And there's a lot of kind of associations with the religious and spiritual movements. We're moving into a new age of kind of spiritual and religious understanding. And buckle up, folks. It's going to be a trip. Not to mention, Saturn will be there soon. And then in early 2026, we're going to get the Saturn Neptune conjunction, a really big deal. Um, so, yeah, just know how the magnitude of the energy of this week and know that you don't need to be present all the time. You need to be present for the people you need to be present for, but don't overextend, force, push, max yourself out. The energy is already doing that. Why should you join them? Um, yeah, and this isn't to say everything's bad. There's going to be some really intense good things ever since I've been kind of looking at the astrology for this eclipse season. There are some really magical gifts in here. Doesn't mean it's not a lot. Doesn't mean we're basically all overwhelmed and really struggling and all the things. Um, so yeah, just pace yourself this week. Engage in the energy as you can. And if this is too much for you, just let it happen. You don't need to be keyed in 24/7 to live the astrology. You've been doing it your whole life. It's just sometimes helpful to have a heads up and to be able to prepare yourself to work for and with it. Anyways, that is this week. The tarot scopes for Aries season are still coming out. I do those for each sign. You do your sun, moon, and rising. Also, the eclipse video will be out right before the eclipse, and please like and subscribe because it makes my day and gets this out to more people, for anyone who's interested. All right, my loves, blessed Aries season, blessed solar eclipse, and I will see you later.